Peace and greetings. Start in a few minutes. We'll start in a minute too. I'm gonna get right to it tonight. I'm gonna stay on too long, about an hour and a half. Got stuff to do. I'm gonna start in about a minute. Just give everybody a little time to get here. All right, peace and greetings to all the guys and goddesses on the path doing work, real work, that is. We get right to the announcements. Again, kind of on a little bit of a time frame this evening. Probably stay on to about 9:30, somewhere in that area. But let me go through a quick announcement. So I know last year, because some people are asking about, a ritual for the month of November. So we're going to take a break for this month and more than likely next month, because I know we did that last year. We kind of took a break through the holidays. Plus, I need to work on the upcoming curriculum for the first session in 2020, which in January. So as I was thinking about it, I think that's going to be what we're going to do, like we did last year. Take a break for November, December, get through the holidays, and then restart up back in January and get fired up and do it all over again. So that's looking like the plan. If something changes, which I don't think it will, looks like I'm gonna stick to that plan. Some personal stuff that I need to focus on too. So to give me a little time and a little break to take care of some other things that I need to take care of. I will be working on the curriculum, which I just need to kind of sequence it. I kind of have together what I'm going to do for the January session, so I will be putting something out on that within the next, within this week. So look for that. That's the full 6 to 8 week session. As I said, after I did the last one, I'm going to do it twice a year. I'm going to keep it organized for January and June. I'm going to do it twice a year. So we're looking to start the next online class session at the end of January, mid to late January. Again, I'll be working on that and getting that all together. As far as, readings or consultations, you can send me an email. I was a little behind. I'm just getting caught up now. I know some people contacted me, and I couldn't get to people within a 3-4 day period. I'm kind of now back at that due to the fact when we had the conference a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I didn't do nothing for those 4 or 5 days, so I fell a little bit behind. But I'm pretty much caught up now. Excuse me 1 second. I'm pretty much caught up now. So I'm back to the 2-3 day window. I'm extremely busy with those. I stay steady busy with them throughout the week. I try to schedule on 4 or 5, maybe 5 days a week, and I try to give myself a couple of days off in between. But if you are interested in a consultation or a reading, shoot me an email. It's in the description box of the video. In that email, please include your days and times you're available and the time zone you live in, and specify if you want a consultation or a reading. Make sure you specify either or. All right. A couple quick things to run through. Don't forget to hit the like button. The more likes the channel and the videos get, it expands out and reaches more people. It'll show up in more search engines. So please hit the like button. Greatly appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. After you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. You will get a notification anytime that I go live or upload a video. Also, I will not be doing a video this Thursday. I know I usually do videos Tuesday and Thursday. Actually, the next 2 Thursdays. Well, actually 3 Thursdays this month. I definitely won't be doing one on Thanksgiving. So next couple Thursdays, I will not be doing a video due to the fact I got tickets to some games. So I'm going to go chill, watch a couple hockey games here, see my Panthers play. So I will not be on this Thursday, and I know for sure next Thursday and Thanksgiving, which that's last Thursday of the month. So just want to throw that out there. Will not be on live this Thursday. I haven't done them in a while. I was shooting some Friday videos that I recorded and upload, and I've been meaning to get to this one video on altars. I will shoot something for Friday, and then a couple of weeks that I'm not doing a live, I'll try to upload something, a little 35, 40-minute video or whatever. I'll try to do that. Also, the channel is monetized. If you want to donate to the channel, go right to the bottom of the chat, hit the money symbol, or you can go to PayPal using the email in the description box. All right. Having said that, I'm kind of just going to this evening. Due to some emails I get, I think people are still a little bit confused, and we got to kind of change the paradigm. We kind of got to get out of a certain way of thinking. I'm still in some of the emails I get. I still see people struggling with archetype and deity. I still see stuck in previous, and then they're not seeing it themselves, and they're not conscious of it. Again, a couple of things we need to reiterate. Then I want to get into, as you see, title of the video, the many masks and manifestations of Lucifer, because there are many masks, right? We've talked about many times before the deific mask. We've talked about archetypes. But one thing I want to read. Let's start with the definition of archetype. I did this a while back on a video. And again, you can Wikipedia this, Google it, whatever. Let's establish what an archetype is, because I think people get confused. All right, I want to make sure we're clear on this. So I'm going to go ahead again and pull that definition up that anybody can pull up online. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. All right. And I'm going to read this. And again, I'm just Googling it. I did this last time. Archetype definition. All right, this is right off of Wikipedia, so anybody can pull this up. Let's establish this. The concept of an archetype, all right, appears in areas relating to behavior, historical, psychological theory, and literary analysis. An archetype can be, all right, a statement, a pattern or behavior, a prototype, a first form or main model which other statements, patterns of behavior, and objects copy, emulate, or merge into. Archetype example, mathematical archetypes often appear as canonical examples. A Platonic philosophical idea referring to pure forms which embody the fundamental characteristics of a thing in Platonism. A collectively inherited unconscious idea, etc., is universally present in individual psyche, Jungian psychology, right? Archetypes are also very close analogies to instincts in the sense that it is impersonal and inherited traits that present and motivate human behavior long before any conscious developments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The point being is, as you continue on to read this, an archetype can be a philosophical system. An archetype can be a story. Archetype can be a certain pattern or way of doing things. An archetype can be the characteristics of something, which is one we use a lot. Path. That's was the second or the first definition I read. Something that embodies the essence of what it represents. So in essence, that's kind of what we utilize for the most part as we work with archetype or deity on this path. All right. So archetype is not, the problem is why I'm pointing this out, because I think the problem is when people hear the word archetype, they think it's some just exclusively limited to some type of deity, and it's not. Okay. So we don't want our thinking to be limited as far as what is an archetype. So there are a multitude of character types, right? There's different representations of them. And that's why I wanted to go through that. All right. So when we talk about archetypes along with the masks, right? They say an individual that has many talents, right? Wears many hats, masks, right? Well, Lucifer, right, has the personifications and the manifestations of many different masks and character types or archetypes. All right. Where I think people are getting confused with this still, in my opinion, and I'm saying this based on emails I receive, etc., there's still some disconnect with this. There's still some confusion with this, and I don't think some have a good grasp on this. First, we have to understand these character types. Remember, as I said, the essence which activates or connects what the archetype represents, you connect with it, and as it said there, activates a portion of the psyche. That's a term that called Jung used in Jungian psychology, right? In essence, you're unlocking something that exists within you. All right, I want to make sure because this comes up a lot. Now, for the individual that says, I'm having these external experiences. What do I mean by having these external experiences? I'm having visions. I'm communicating with deity. I'm hearing voices. I'm having dreams. Okay, you are, or you might be, you're visualizing, experiencing, seeing, and feeling something. That's not what needs to be clarified. The point of origin where that's manifesting is what needs to be clarified. Because when we attribute these things to something spooky out there, then it kind of removes us from the understanding of it. You're unlocking something that's always lied dormant within. When you activate that portion, the hippocampus area of your brain is responsible, when functioning correctly, is responsible for what we would call our spiritual experiences, spiritual visions, apparitions, or anything we experience on a spiritual level. That's the portion of the brain that is responsible for it. When you start connecting on a level where you're vibrating on a certain frequency, what tends to happen is it activates a lot of your higher senses, and you start unlocking portions of your subconscious mind, and it starts to create what one is labeling as external experiences, whether it's a vision of a spirit, a god, a goddess, an ancestral relative, whatever you want to call it, is creating the experience. Hence, we go back to the principles. All is mental, mental is all, the universe is mental. It's point of origin in here. Okay, regardless of what's going on around you, inside of you, right? As above, so below, as within, so without. So what's going on within is manifest out as a personal confirmation to you. And it's personal. It's subjective. You're having these experiences because activating this within yourself. It's personal. Okay. The problem, what tends to happen when certain circles, when others try to go convince others of their personal experiences. That's not what we do on this path. Okay, those are personal experiences for you. Those are experiences you need to take note of. You need to absorb, because they're specifically designed by you for you. Okay, this is where I think the disconnect is. Now, in the symbol of Baphomet, connecting, because it connects to the Luciferian energy, it connects to black magic, chaos, all everything is embodied or embedded in that symbol. All right. We always talk about that symbol. In essence, when you look at it, which is one of the most popular occult symbols, it's actually become a bit commercialized nowadays, because everybody and their mother is using it. Because like anything else that becomes trendy, it gets commercialized. Well, why it's such a popular occult symbol? When the occultist, the black magician, uses it, and I can only tell you how I use it in my work, but you will find how I explain how I use it. People use it very similar because of what the symbol represents. Now, to the spooky people, let's dispel this myth again, even though I've talked about it before. Baphomet is not a deity. Okay, let's get that out the way, especially if you're a newer person on this. Baphomet is not some entity. It's not some goat-faced man figure, contrary to what you've been told. The indoctrination or the conspiracy theories and sensationalism you might have read. It's just a symbol. Okay. Don't come with the bullshit where, the Knights of Templar secretly worship this god called Baphomet. That's all mythology. That's all self-created nonsense for individuals that seek sensationalism. Because as I said before, if you ain't a Knights of Templar and you ain't ever been in the Knights of Templar temple and witnessed it, where you getting that from? And you'd have to be honest and say, I read it somewhere on the internet, I read it somewhere in a book. And then my next question would be, whoever wrote that book or wherever you saw it, and where did they get it from? Until I can trace it back to the point of origin where you were there to witness it for yourself, all that is conspiracy. It's put out there intentionally to spook people out, scare them. Okay? Baphomet symbol. what it represents to an occultist, a black magician, a black adept, whatever terms we use for somebody that practices the dark arts. What we should be focusing on is the harmony that the symbol represents. It's encoded in that symbol. There are so many different symbolisms. Obviously, many you can draw upon many, but I'm just going to give you some of the more common ones we should be drawing upon as adepts. And then we'll tie it into Lucifer and the different manifestations in mass. We're going to go through the different character types, right? We're going to go through Satan, Beelzebub, Lucifer, Iblis, Shaitan, Shemjaza, Samael. What are all these? Are they different? Are they the same thing? I'm going to get to that in a minute, because that's again where people are getting confused. But the Baphomet symbol kind of explains it all. And that's why when you go back traditionally in Satanism and the Black Mass, it was one of the key symbol used in the backdrop on the altar because of what it represented. Now we did last week, I went over Samael and the name and the hidden encodements in the Sah, Shah, Mah, Lemek, the hidden, we'll get back to that in a second. But the harmony that Baphomet represents is what we should be focusing on, all right? Because you see depicted in the Baphomet symbol, as I said before, many times before, you see the goat face of a male, right? The male face of a goat representing the masculine energy. Then when one looks down, you see female breasts, right? So it's an androgynous figure that you're seeing here, a symbol. So now we have the masculine and the feminine energy represented together, right? Then when we further look at the symbol, we see on the arm coaduli, which means to transition from one state to another. In simplistic terms, you see the one finger pointing down, one finger pointing below, as above, so below, as within, so without. You see him perched on the earth, right? You see this figure perched, sitting on what appears to be the globe or the earth, okay? Now, we know that a goat likes to go high up in the mountain so it can look down upon its subject. So that's a symbol of rulership, being in control. You see the scales, which represents the water element. You see the kundalini activated, right? The pineal gland activated, the fire coming from the brow or the pineal chakra, right? You see the air element represented. You see the fire element represented. You see the masculine, the feminine. All of this, in a nutshell, represents totality, right? Totality, right? As they call them in quantum physics. You also see represented in that symbol, in the whole concept as itself, equilibrium or harmony, right? All this ties into harmony. It's the masculine, feminine energy, harmony, equilibrium, totality. You see the four elements, activation of the pineal. All of these symbols is what we connect with as a magician, as an adept on the path to self-mastery, a practitioner of the dark arts, a dark sorcerer, a warlock or witch, whatever you want to call it, whatever title you need that floats your boat and make you feel good, roll with it. Doesn't matter, because that's at the end of the day, that's all they are, titles, right? And we got to make sure we understand that. So this is why in a traditional Black Mass, and you'll even see in the rituals I do down here, I have a big backdrop that I'll keep on the altar of that particular symbol because of what it symbolizes. A symbol does what? It symbolizes something. When you look at that symbol and you've studied and mastered that symbol, remember symbols, sigils, they project consciousness. Once you have given yourself that inner understanding of what that represents, the very simple act of looking upon it activates that consciousness within your psyche. All right. This is the same thing that happens when archetypes, let's say. You have an altar, and at your altar, you have set up statues that represent certain deities, gods, or goddesses. So let's take an example. If I have a statue of Sekhmet on my altar, right? And I've already studied and embodied what Sekhmet represents. We know Sekhmet is a warrior type. It's a devourer. It's vampiric in nature. And it, as it says, her lust and insatiableness for blood had nothing that could contain it, right?
when you read the story. She was a devourer. She drank, it says she devoured the blood of the gods, right? She absorbed the energy of the gods, right? They use the term blood. Blood, and the blood is the life. I want to get into the whole vampirism thing now, but that's a whole nother story. But the thing is, the symbolicism Sekhmet represents a devourer, a warrior. So immediately when you look at that statue, or symbol, I should say, because that's really what a statue is. When you put statues of deities on your, we don't worship them. We embody what they represent. We become that. So immediately when I gaze upon my Sekhmet, I'm now observing what Sekhmet represents. In my mind, already mastered and embodied what Sekhmet represents. So I'm not worshiping Sekhmet. I'm becoming like a Sekhmet, because I know the Sekhmet energy exists within here. And I have to activate it through my ansata, my heart chakra. That's where my power comes from. That's where all of our power comes from. So this is how we connect with archetype. Now, let's go back now to Lucifer, right? No different. You have, let's go through some of the titles of the adversary, right? And when we say the adversary, which that's the definition of Satan, that's what Satan means, adversary. In the word adversary, you have root in the English word adverse. When you're adverse to something, you're on the opposite side of the spectrum. So when somebody is satanic or deals with the concept of the adversary via the name Satan or Satanas, it just basically, all you are saying is you're not a conformist. You're adverse to mainstream philosophy and way of thinking. You've taken the left-hand path. It's just a term. I don't really like to use that word because, unfortunately, like other religions, dogmas, and philosophies, I use it because it's what we connect with. But left-hand path is just simply a term because they say the right side is the right side. Okay, is it? And the left-hand path is just a term used symbolically because to go left-hand path is to go opposite of what's right. So it's just a term that's used to describe somebody that's a nonconformist, right? Well, what about somebody, well, that's left-handed, but we'll talk about that at a different time. I don't know, it just popped in my head. But the whole point being is these are just terms describing actions that represent certain symbols that project certain aspects of consciousness to us. That's what titles do. Be careful. Don't get caught up in titles because that can kind of confuse you. All right. So we have Lucifer, we have Satan, we have Iblis, we have Melek Taus, right? We have Samael, okay? We have Shemjaza, right? We have Azazel, right? Are these all the same thing? Yes and no. All right. I want to explain this again closely because I explained this a little while back, and I think it kind of went over some people's heads because of emails that I received. You got to stop subconsciously trying to focus your attention and energy on some singular external deity that you believe is going to bring you salvation. Let me make this clear. The only thing that's going to bring you salvation is yourself, okay? This is the number one principle of Luciferianism, right? There are many systems out there that are very Luciferian in nature, whether they call themselves Luciferian or not. There are a lot of conscious movements out there that use the terminology of becoming a god or a goddess. That's Luciferian in nature. And let me clarify this. When we say that we are gods and goddesses, we're simply saying not a god or a goddess or a god according to the definition of monotheism. That's a spook god. That's a god that doesn't exist. Okay, that's a mythological god. That's about as real as Santa Claus, the Wizard of Oz, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and any of that other fictional mythology. What we are saying is when you are claiming or striving to become a god or a goddess, you're basically one who is now taking the initiative to be responsible for your actions. You take responsibility for your actions. You take credit for your successes and your failures. That's what a god or a goddess is, right? None of this spooky shit. See, Religious people get all up in arms when they hear that. Oh, that's blasphemy. How can you say that? Well, we don't believe in religious theology. I don't believe in your religious theology. So you can't use that criteria to use your religious judgment, because that's mythology. So we're not talking about that type of God, okay? Because that God doesn't exist. When you transition that into this path, here's where the problem starts to happen. Some people think they've left that stuff behind, but they really haven't. And you can see it in their behavior. You can see it in their actions, their line of questioning, and the way they go about their approach to certain things. I say that because I think some people are still looking at Lucifer as some external deity they can go to like you would the monotheistic biblical God. That's not how this works. Okay, you are Lucifer. You are Satan. These are character types. You take on those attributes in certain situations and scenarios, depending on what you got going on in your life. Set, Satuk, we didn't even mention Set, right? One of the most powerful forms of the adversary, because now you're dealing with mastering chaos, right? So let's go through this real quick. Why are they all manifestations and masks of Lucifer? Because when we look at how the system is set up on the left-hand path, Lucifer is symbolic, right? And is one of the most powerful archetypes because it embodies light and darkness simultaneously. And a good practicing black magician or adept knows you need a combination in the right harmony of both light and darkness. But the black magician also knows in order to have true light or intellect, you must go into the darkness. You must go into the primordial chaotic energy and tap into this raw primordial essence, which we call shadow work, the real you, because it starts there. In that darkness, everything will be revealed. Everything that is hidden in that darkness will be revealed. And through that revelation and awareness, as you become aware of it and then you start to address it, now true intellect goes from just simple knowledge to wisdom. Because now when you apply the knowledge, it becomes wisdom, right? This is what we seek to strive, but you cannot do that reverse. Most philosophies, religions, and dogmas teach it reverse. They teach you suppress everything that's bad about yourself. Don't give in to temptations. Don't be worldly. Well, I got news for you. You can't meditate all your problems away. You can't levitate all your problems away. You can't vegan diet all your problems away. Because at the end of the day, when the shit hits the fan, guess what? They're still there, okay? And it's not a matter of if or when it bubbles to the surface and implodes and explodes in your face. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So some people are fooling themselves and they hide in some culture, some spiritual system, thinking that all their bullshit, their drama, their nonsense, their fucked up ways about themselves, they think it's just going to disappear. Well, if I just engulf myself heavy and become super Buddhist, I'm just going to do the Om mantra and, you know, all my fuckery and nonsense and shortcomings, it's just going to go away. No, that doesn't work like that. Okay? Because Lucifer, why we connect with the concept of Lucifer, and again, remember, these are just titles, right? Why we connect with the concept of Lucifer, again, because Lucifer embodies light and darkness simultaneously. It's the only one. It's the only one. Okay? It's the only one. So the masks and manifestations branch out from there. Then we talk about Satan or Satanas in Latin, right? Which just simply means the adversary. So that's a mask or archetype or character type of Lucifer. You take on the form of the adversary every time you disagree with something. You are adverse to what is being said. It's that simple. So let me give you an example when you become Satan. All right? We're having a conversation. I like to use sports analogies because I'm a huge sports fan. Let's say we're having a conversation and we're talking about different teams and where they're ranked and we're talking about how good they are on the offensive side of the ball there. And I make a statement and say, well, such and such is the best offense in the NFL. As soon as somebody comes along and says, I got to disagree with that, I think you are now Satan, because you are adverse to the norm of what was just said. So that concept can be applied whether we're having a dialogue about sports, whether it's a disagreement with a political or religious or a spiritual belief, whether it's your approach, your opinion on something. We all take on the form of the adversary, okay? That's one. Now let's shift it to another manifestation of the adversary that we talked about last week, Samael, which represents, in essence, the angel of death. When we went through Samael last week, Samael basically has an energy where it doesn't really give a fuck. Whatever needs to be done, it's going to do it, no matter what needs to be destroyed. If something needs to be wiped out, killed, annihilated. Now, when you go into the Hebrew mysticism, it talked about Samael did whatever bidding. He did basically, according to the story, did the dirty work of God, what nobody else wanted to do, and had no remorse about it. That's us, okay? We take on when we have the I don't give a fuck attitude, and we take on the mentality that whatever needs to be done, something achieved, I'm going to do it. That's Samael. That's another character type, okay? Then we go into Set, right? Which is a powerful mask or manifestation of Lucifer, or the adversary, whatever you want to call it. Because now Set deals with, now there's different, now here's the deep thing with Set. With Set, you have different aspects or paths of Set, right? You have Set Typhoon, which is the god of chaos, the god of desert, the god of storms, because that's intertwined with chaos, and there's a connection with a path. We draw upon the aspect or the manifestation of Set to make order out of it, okay? This is a very important manifestation or mask of Lucifer, because this mask or manifestation of Lucifer is what helps you deal and address things that need to be addressed, when shit needs to be accomplished, when paths need to be open, right? We draw upon Set. So now ask yourself, you have different philosophies, dogmas, you have groups out here, right? That certain groups will gravitate to one aspect more than the other of Lucifer, right? You have groups such as the Satanic Church, where they use the title or aspect of the adversary, Satan, right? Luciferians in many different forms and concepts. Not every Luciferian looks at Lucifer the same way, but they gravitate towards Lucifer, which in my opinion is a higher mental or spiritual concept, because it eliminates most Luciferians work with it on a high mental frequency, right? Most Luciferians don't remove themselves out of equations. Most Luciferians do not worship anything outside of themselves. Again, they're based on the principle that they are God, and when they take that responsibility and they know that the God or the deity that they're looking for is within, it's them, right? So they're not worshiping, like, let's say, certain individuals will, the adversary is some monotheistic God. So we can't look at it like that. Okay, we have to wipe that from our mind. We have to stop approaching it like that, because if you do, it's no different than a Christian going to church and praying to some God that resides, sitting on a throne, some old man God with a beard sitting on a throne, which is mythology. And they stamped this mythology into your subconscious mind. And it was magic in itself, people. It was fucking wizardry in itself, because that shit is so deep. To this day, people still arguing over this bullshit. We still got people arguing over, was Jesus real or not? Were the prophets? Who gives a shit? It's all mythology. I've done videos and classes on that for over 20 years, telling people that shit is all mythology taken from cultures that predated it. But now we have groups to this day that's still fussing, fighting, arguing, debating over this shit, and it's all nonsensical. Okay? They are a form or a concept of archetypes, character types. It's like a comic book. Okay? It's the same thing. When Stan Lee created the whole Marvel pantheon, he created a whole concept or pantheon of gods. So you can use fucking Spider-Man, Batman, because they all have certain what? Superpowers, right? They all reflect or project a certain aspect of consciousness or knowledge, right? Superman, every one of them has a special gift. So it's no different when you look at Marvel Comics superheroes, and let's say you look at the Egyptian Neteru, they all serve a function. They all have certain attributes that are connected to them, just like the superheroes. Now, the fucking geniusness about this, right? And I've said this before with Walt Disney, right? Same thing. Walt Disney created a whole pantheon of characters that is still going strong to this day, and he's been dead for a long time now. People travel all from all over the world, whether it's in Europe, because now they have Disney World and Disneyland, in the United States, overseas, in Europe, etc. Think about how fucking powerful this shit is. People travel all over the world to all these locations to see a fictitious, a mythological mouse that's not real, and characters that are associated with it: Pluto, Goofy, Minnie Mouse, and whatever the other ones. Okay? This is something this man created 50, 60, 70 years ago. I don't know the exact time frame. I could be off on that, but you get my point. It goes way, way back. Now, you can sit here and be on all that pro-conscious bullshit and say, oh, yeah, that's all indoctrination to keep the masses controlled and all that other bullshit. I don't look at it like that. Look, I'm not a huge Walt Disney fan. I've taken my kids there. You know, kids love it. I think when I look back on it, see, this is how we look at it as magicians. I said, man, Walt Disney was a fucking genius. Here's a guy that created something, and here's my point. Here's a guy that created something from in here. He thought these characters. He created them. He had a vision. He had to visualize what they look like, whether he was the artist or he hired art. Somebody had to draw this out. It branched out into animation, cartoons, a fictitious place, a world called Disneyland and Disney World, characters that came with it. Not only are children mesmerized by this, adults are. I know some adults that are like Disney fanatics. I'm talking about psychotic Disney fanatics. The power, think of the power in that shit. If Walt Disney can do it, why can't you do it? Walt Disney brought those deities within. Whatever was going on in his mind, he created that. That is more powerful than any Tahuti, Shango, Obatala. Why do you fucking people still want something that somebody else established when you should be establishing your own? That's my whole fucking point. Okay? That's what demonic integration is all about. When you tap into your personal daemon, and Walt Disney did, he tapped into his higher self. And guess who manifested? Mickey Mouse, Pluto, Goofy, and all the other characters. I don't know all the names, but you get the point. Where did he get that from? Okay, people say dumb shit. Oh, he made it up. I got that. I understand he made it up. But where did he get it from? Because in his subjective, that's real to him. Whether that came to him in a dream, whether that's his imagination running wild, but that's him tapping into his magic ability, whether he's or not. Okay? So look at it from that perspective. Okay? So archetypes are no different than Disney characters when you're dealing with deity. It's no different than comic book or superhero characters. You need to focus more on the functions of what those deities represent. So the many masked manifestation of Lucifer, right, starts with Lucifer because he embodies darkness. And what proceeds from there are all those manifestations or masks. All right? Okay? Look, another way to look at this, okay? There's a couple ways you can look at this. And again, I always say this, if you're getting results, first and foremost, doesn't matter what you're doing, okay? Your approach. But let me say this because I want to remove out of the equation, okay? I want to move out of the equation approaching this as a religious monotheistic person would. I think there are still too many people doing that. There's still way too many people doing that, and they're not conscious of it. If you still want to worship something, gravitate in front of something, then stay being a Muslim, stay being whatever religion you came from. That's where you need to be. Okay? Focus on the consciousness that is projected from those manifestations. That's it. That's simple. If you struggle with that or you have a hard time doing that, then you have to ask yourself and reevaluate your approach, okay? Your approach in the sense, do you look at these things as something external existing somewhere? Do you look at these things as something that resides within you? Or do you understand the shit at all? Okay? That's how we got to approach this, all right? Let's see if we have any questions before I continue on, because I'm going to stay on time frame. Okay. All right. Let me go up to the top. Greetings, brother Angel, Kua, the whole Black Flame 11 crew in New York City. I just see a bunch of greetings stuff. Well, peace and greetings to everybody. So I'll save time by skipping through all that. Again, don't forget to hit the like button. It expands the channel. Subscribe, hit the notification bell and all that good shit. Yeah, I saw something down. Yeah, okay. It's a good point and a bad point. Here's the thing. All right. I think D.D. Heyman, you're referring to Walt Disney being a known child molester. Okay, I can't say if he is or was. I've heard the information. Even if he is, let's look at this. And I don't condone that shit. But let me show you how easy it is for our minds to get trapped in a certain way of thinking. Let's look at R. Kelly real quick. And let's keep it 100% real. Before anybody knew anything about R. Kelly, with all the bullshit that came to the surface with him, and I'm only referring to him because that's something modern day that's going on now. And this is the reality. Whether we like R. Kelly not now, he's a talented singer. You can't refute that. Don't let your personal emotions get in the way. We can't refute that. Many people now, after they found out what he did, and I don't condone what he did if he was messing with underage girls. But what I'm saying is, what we have to learn to do is, the cold hard truth is we have to separate certain things. It still doesn't change the fact he's a talented singer. And I'd be stupid if I sat there and just out of my personal hate and emotion. Now, do I like him as a person? Just like I may not like Walt Disney as a person, but I wasn't talking about their particular personal choices. And I'm sure there was repercussions for that, okay? I'm focusing again on the concept. It doesn't change the fact that R. Kelly is a talented singer, whether you hate him or not now. It doesn't change the fact of what Walt Disney did, regardless if he was a known child molester or what he did. And again, it's fucked up. That's just, it is what it is. There's many great people that we can go through in history that have done some great things, but have had some shady past. I'm sure we all have some skeletal bones in the closet. My point I was trying to draw out the aspect of creating, because we can use that same concept with R. Kelly, right? But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't change the fact that R. Kelly is a talented singer. He made good music. And I know people still on the DL are listening to his music. I listen to it whenever I feel the need to, or the urge. I'm not going to not listen to it just because of the shit that's going on. But that's what I'm trying to say. We have to learn to separate the two. It's the same thing. Like, I run into people all the time down here in South Florida. You may or may not be familiar with Yahweh Ben Yahweh. I know some have heard of him. He was very popular here in South Florida. I didn't know nothing, when I left New York and came down here, I didn't know nothing about him really till I came here. They still have a couple of stores in Miami. They have a vegan restaurant. They're still scattered about here. Now, for those that don't know, or too much history of Yahweh Ben Yahweh, and I'm not a supporter of him, but I'm gonna call it for what it is. Now, we all know that he was accused of many things: racketeering. He too was accused of messing with children. A lot of crimes, murder, which was what he got locked up for, and then eventually got released and died. I believe it was in 2007, right when he got out. He died. But what he did, if you're not familiar, okay, he started his own school. He had his own busing system. He bought a lot of real estate. He bought a lot of property. Now, I'm not saying that wipes out what he did, but what I'm saying is, I personally, from what I've researched on him, it looks like he did do some shady shit and was guilty of some shady shit. But on the flip side, I saw what he accomplished here on an economical, financial level. All right. It doesn't change or negate that whether I like him or not, or anybody else does or not. And I'm not too fond from what I found, but I see the impact. What I'm talking about is those that leave here, but leave a mark and make an impact, regardless of whether you like them or not. That's somebody that has accomplished something. Now, I've always asked this question to people: if you were to leave tomorrow here and transition, do you feel like at the present moment in your life, you've left a mark and an impact here? All right. Ask yourself that question. If you were to go tomorrow, do you feel like you've left an impact and an influence that will continue, a legacy that will continue to live on after you leave? Because you know what? In the end, in the scheme of things, look, it is what it is. Okay? Be honest with yourself. And if the answer is no, then that's confirmation you have a lot more work to do. Okay? I think we all have a lot more work to do. And in that, there's going to be people, that love you, that like you, that hate you, that can't stand you. But what we have to learn on this path is, and I gave that shit up years ago. I don't care about none of that shit no more. I couldn't care if you love, like, hate. Shit is irrelevant. That's personal. That's some personal shit you got to get over. All right. So my thing is, if, when we start, look, I've always said this when it comes to, and I've done shows on that. If you go back to the old radio show, it's so funny how certain people get a pass when it comes to this. When it comes to messing with children, Africa Bambaataa, look how that went through. Nobody talks about it no more, right? Dr. York, one of the biggest known pedophiles, a sick shit. If you go read the pre-sentence and investigation report, messing with infants. I mean, I'm saying this to say, it doesn't matter if it's Walt Disney. It doesn't matter if it's Dr. York. It doesn't matter if it's Yahweh Ben Yahweh. The reality is, and I'm saying this for somebody that was affiliated with York going years back, and that's one of the reasons why I left. So I'm making that clear. But the reality is, there are certain things these people did that left marks. Whether you agree with it or not, that's irrelevant. But the problem is that even when you look at York's followers today, okay, they're still around lingering, right? They're still proclaiming his innocence because whether you like him or not, whether you agree with him or not, he left an impact. I mean, technically, even though he's not physically dead, he's dead, but he left an impact, okay? And it is what it is. Unfortunately, there's not an explanation for all that. What we have to come to grips with, that's your own personal feelings and emotions. All right. All right. Let me go to the top. I just saw that one at the end before I was scrolling up. So let me go to the top. Let's see what we got here. Just looking for questions. I'm not going to read the side chatter. Yeah, that's a good comment earlier by Daniel Hope. Baphomet is the hidden self. I like that. I say I like that because in essence, if I needed a short description to describe that symbol, that's a good way of describing it. It is the hidden self because all of those things that we discussed a short while back represent the hidden self. And not everything hidden is pretty. And that when you deal with the hidden self, there's the great things about the hidden self. You know, all the wonderful things that you pat yourself on your back about how great you are at this and that, how knowledgeable you are, how skilled you are. That's the great, that's not the hidden self. The hidden self is the deep, dark aspects of yourself, the stuff you've been running from, the traumas, the fears, right? Because when you master those going within, or as Daniel put, the hidden self, that's when the real you starts to emerge. That's when you start to know you. And as it says, what? One of the greatest sayings in alchemy is know thyself and thou shalt know the gods, right? Well, funny thing I find with people is they want to so badly worship these gods, these archetypes. I don't care if it's the Orishi, I don't care if it's the Natiru. But the funny fucking thing is they don't even know themselves. They want to worship and glorify and connect to something who they've never seen, right? But yet, they haven't even mastered themselves. They don't even know themselves. They don't even know their true self. I'm not talking about the illusionary self, because shadow work is about removing the illusions. And most of the illusions about ourselves, we created, okay? We spend the majority of our time projecting an image that we want people to see us as. We portray this image. I want everybody to see me as super spiritual and holy. I want everybody to see me as a know-it-all. I know everything. Nobody knows what I know. I'm fucking special. I want somebody to see me. I talk to extraterrestrials and entities. So I want everybody to think that I'm special. I mean, I can go on and on. I want everybody to think I'm a hardcore thug, right? We got these guys that walk around all the time. I'm sorry, not everybody's. Come on, look. If everybody was a goddamn thug, man, come on, look. Please. I mean, it's just like I get nauseous talking about it. Then there's the female. I'm so sexual and I'm the finest fucking thing to ever grace the planet, and my pussy is so magical. And I'm not. Anytime a woman has said to me over the years, I'm not like any other woman you met, that's a red flag. Okay? Because you are exactly that. Because you wouldn't have to say that. Okay? And any dude that says the same thing, I'm not like all them other dudes you've been with. Right? These are false illusions or images that we project when rather just, right? The old saying, do without doing. It doesn't mean don't do anything. It means if you're consistent at what you do and be, things take shape and form. So you find through your shadow work and connecting with the many manifestations and masters of Lucifer, this ain't what you thought it was. You got some work to do. I need to sharpen up in this area. Maybe I don't know what I think. I thought I knew something. And it doesn't mean, look, I'm not saying that to say you don't know something, but a wise man knows he knows nothing in the sense he's always eager and open to listen and learn. But when you think you know it all, that's when you get slapped upside the head in some shape, form, or fashion. Because nobody knows it all. Okay? Because if we all knew it all, Whether it's this chat room, we got 48 people in here. You wouldn't be in this room right now if you knew it all. You're here because you might just be curious, you might just be interested, or you might be here to actually learn. Okay? That's why we do what we do. That's why we dialogue. Why do you go into people's chat rooms and YouTube channels? Because you want to learn. Because if you knew it all, you wouldn't have to do it. If I knew it all, I wouldn't be wasting my time on here doing this. I learn from others. Okay? I learn from doing this. Okay? And I learn from people's responses. And you can even learn from fools. Because as I've said many times before, when a fool is talking, just sit, listen. Because a fool gives himself up by the dumb shit that he or she says. So this is the approach. But that's a good concept. I like that, the hidden self. Where? All right, let's see what else we got. But that's a good concept. All right, what happened to my damn? Did I lose this shit? Yeah. Hold on. Shit jumped on me. Okay, there we go. I got it. Okay, another good comment by Naldo M. Baphomet is basically the symbol of the initiate. Yes, and that's how I look at it. But again, within that symbolism, there's many concepts. But as long as we're looking at it as a symbol that projects, and look, just from Daniel and Naldo, that's the consciousness that they absorb. That's their perspective on it, and that's how we should do this. I'm sure everybody else can probably type in something that they project from that symbol, but as long as we're doing that, that's the approach. And there is no specific right exclusive way to do it, because based on everybody's perception, their experience, their knowledge and wisdom on the path, they're going to draw similar and different things, and that's okay. That's the point. But as long as we're not looking at this as some mythological deity, then we're okay. But that's another good explanation there. I like that. All right, what else we got? No, I wouldn't say that, Patra, that saying you're on the left-hand path is really not good because that's saying you're the opposite of so-called what's right. No, because right and wrong, no, let me clarify that. I would not say that at all. Right and wrong is perspective. What I was saying earlier about when you're saying you're on the left-hand path, you're just saying you're not a conformist. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. And it's not bad in that. I was saying I don't like to say that term because left-hand path gets some, advocate or connected with modern day groups or modern day Euro Satanists, because people think that's all left-hand path is, modern day Satanists, and it's not. It's just symbolically a term to describe somebody who is not a conformist. And I don't think it has anything to do with right or wrong. It doesn't mean because you say you're on the left-hand path, you're against what's right. Because what's right to one person could be completely wrong to another person. So right and wrong is just like good and bad. It's personal. So I don't think it has anything to do with that. I was saying when I was talking about that a few minutes ago, I was saying I don't like to use the term because of what it's affiliated with modern day. Most of these modern day Satanist groups, as if that's the only left-hand path group. But that's it. It doesn't really have anything. That's why I prefer to use the term path to self-mastery. That's all I was referring to. This is a good comment by Blade of Astareth. Right is being adversarial also means being a challenger to the established structure of regressive morals and common belief. Most definitely. Enough said. And that's what that right there in a nutshell is what this path is about. Challenge everything, question everything. Don't accept anything until you can yourself. And what doesn't resonate with you, you just don't vibe with it. You toss it to the side, right? Morals and common belief, which is two good things, and I'm glad you bring it up. Morals are personal. Now, there's just common sense morals. I'm not talking about that. And as I've said this before, right? In my opinion, it's common sense, let's say to respect your elders to a degree, as long as respect given is respect earned. But when you talk about religious morals, political morals, society morals, that's a whole nother level. That's where it can get a little bit tricky because that's where a lot of this systematic indoctrination. So yes, you challenge those things, question those things, and common belief systems, whether it's philosophies or religions. We challenge that. As I said earlier, we don't accept some old man with a long white beard somewhere out there controlling every string of the course of your life. So yes, this is about, and that's what the adversary represents, right? Satanas, right? The adversary. That's the things that are challenged. That's the things that are questioned. Now take that approach and use it in your everyday life. If you're on this path, how can you utilize that concept and apply it on a daily basis? Because again, this is not just about reading your books, doing work in your ritual chamber, which is a large part of it. But how can you constantly work this 24/7, 24 hours, 7 days a week? How do you apply this on a daily basis in your business or on your job, your career, your profession, raising your family, whatever it might be? Even if you play sports, how do you use that concept and apply it to be the best you can be at sports or whatever it is? Okay. So real magic is about facilitating this through every single aspect of your life. And the most important times to draw upon this is when you're going through struggles. That's where people abandon what they think they know. And I've watched people struggle and then they go back to doing the same old shit they used to do because when shit gets thick, they can't handle it. If you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen, right? This is what happens. So how do I apply this constantly? Not just when I'm in the mood to, or not when I'm really trendy or feel like. Because when you start opening these doors, look at this shit. It's fucking connection shit again. I swear. Shit went away. It seemed like everything. I've never have a problem with this shit. Popped on. Hopefully this shit don't come back on. I don't know. But yeah, how do you ask yourself? How do you utilize this consistently, not just here and there? All the green lights is on. Just wanted to make sure. So this is not about just doing it when it's convenient for you. Okay. Facilitate in every aspect of your life, because if it is, be able to see the results financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And let me talk about that real quick. Okay. There is some physicality to this. Okay. People act as if no. And I talked about that. All right. That's part of bridging that gap and creating that harmony. You should take care of yourself to the best of your ability physically. You should be exercising regularly. You should be monitoring, not religiously. Okay. Because as I said before, veganism has, in my opinion, become a fucking religion. And I'm not knocking anybody that's vegan. If that's your choice, that's your choice. I sure as fuck ain't. Monitor within regulation of what you eat. Know yourself. I don't want to get into the whole blood type and diet thing because that'd be a whole fucking class in itself. But in a short nutshell, not to stay on it too long, we should be getting regular exercise. We should be as best as we can. All right. Know your limitations. Know your intake. This not only just due to the common sense fact, if you're eating poorly, you're not exercising, obviously that can lead to illnesses, sicknesses, and diseases. But you should be responsible for your health. Because remember, if I said we're gods and goddesses, we must take responsibility for our actions, our successes, and our failures. So taking responsibility for your health, even though I don't talk about it a lot, I've done videos on it occasionally here and there, it is important, okay? At the end of the day, it's on you. Now, yes, excuse me, are there some things, traits and characteristics of that can be passed through genealogy? Yes. Don't get me wrong. Some people are dealt a hand when it comes to the health department. So I get that, but we still should be doing the best we can, because can it disrupt? A lot of people will say, man, I struggle with concentrating when I meditate. And usually it's because of a poor diet. Usually a person is either taking too much artificial preservatives and chemicals and processed foods. If you're eating that shit all the time, I can tell you your meditations you're gonna struggle with your meditations. I can just tell you that right out the gate. All right. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have sweets once in a while, or ice cream once in a while, or pretzel, whatever. It just means you can't have it all the time within moderation. So that's why I say veganism, when you just stop altogether, I'm not never going to eat it. That's where it becomes a fucking religion. All right. So this is all, and again, good comment by Blade of Bastard. This is all challenging that belief system, right? Common belief, morals, dogmas, all this shit. This is what we do on this path. I don't care. Look, if somebody says something or I hear a concept, I'm going to have to definitely use critical thinking and question it. And look, if I draw the conclusion I'm in disagreement with it, I just leave it alone. I don't care. I'm done. I don't have to get into no big debate, but if it's something I resonate with, then I take it in, I absorb it, and I see how I can apply it on my path. Okay? All right, what else we got? I agree with Naldo. You screw the vegan diet. My meat grounds you to the earth. And again, you should know your blood type. And I've said many times before, I've studied my blood type. I'm O positive. O people, O positive or negative people, are meat eaters. They need it because they're carnivorous by nature. They're aggressive. A, B blood, they tend to be more vegan because they're more passive by nature. And you have to be careful when you go on these strict vegan diets, because I always tell people, before you go do some crazy shit like that, you should get a thorough testing of the different levels. First, you should make sure your blood platelets and all that, white and red blood cell count, you should know that that's in line. You should get a full checkup knowing what your body is lacking as far as vitamins and minerals. Because when you start going to something exclusive like that, I've seen it fuck people up, and I've talked about that before. Because that's not productive for everybody. I've watched people get sick as shit being on them vegan diets. But I already know. I can't do it. I think I was a vegetarian for maybe 37 minutes, I think. I can't do that shit. And fighting it is, but again, no knock to anybody that is. If that's your thing, that's your thing. Yeah, that I've read ISIS Unveiled. Madame Blavatsky, she's got some decent stuff. And I know you were addressing, I believe that was Pacha's question. Yeah, don't get caught up in that whole right and wrong. And again, these are just titles. That's it. Left-hand path is a title. That's all it is. It really, in essence, doesn't mean shit, to be honest with you. Truth is personal, and you really can't put a title on it. Truth is just that. It's truth to the individual. We as humans sometimes have to classify things and give them titles because of our insecurities, whether they're conscious or subconscious, because it gives us some feeling of being secure, right? Let me give you an example. It's just like if you run into somebody, and I get this all the time sometimes in certain circles you talk, people, when it comes to spirituality, what are you? Right? I love this. What am I? What the fuck? What the fuck does that mean?
Well, what do you believe? Do you believe in God? I believe in a higher power. You know, you say these little fuck things that screw with their head. Oh, so like, what are like? Are you Buddhist? No, I'm not a Buddhist. And this fucks them up. I'm a spiritual person. They get uncomfortable because they can't bother you and put a label or a title on you. See, when you say you're a Muslim, boom, clicks. People know what they're dealing with, so they feel secure, safe. When you say a Christian, a Hebrew, a Buddhist, that the common person can identify with, they feel comfortable because they can put you in a box. But they get frightened when they hear us say something like, "Well, I'm on the left-hand path. Oh, I practice the dark arts," or "Well, I'm a black magician." No, you're into all that Satanism, because the first thing, their fear kicks in, their insecurities kick in, because it's not something they're familiar with, and people fear what they don't know. It's that simple. It's just write it off, criticize, say some dumb shit, ignorance and your fear, because you don't know. People's pentagram and the Baphomet symbol, and they fear because they've been programmed to think that's satanic. They must sacrifice babies and children and drink blood. So let people wallow in their ignorance. Not love. Look, it's like Chaz Palmieri said in Bronx Tale, and is it better to be loved or feared? Right? I'd rather be feared if I had a choice. Because when you show somebody too much fucking love, it creates a weakness. But you can find love and fear if that fear is exercised correctly. Okay? Not used as a manipulation tool to scare somebody, but if you fear somebody because of a certain way that they carry themselves, and you was too stupid enough or ignorant enough not to ask to find out, then that type of fear keeps you in line, keeps you in check. So if I had the option, I'd rather be feared. Okay? It's the nature of things. And the nature of things is created by us as human beings. We create these fucking parameters, these ignorances, these it's just funny. Like, I mean, the best way I can describe it, that when somebody, again, is confronted with something they're not familiar with, aware of, it's usually fear, insecurity kicks in. And then they become reactive as opposed to proactive. What do I mean by that? Well, if somebody's coming at you with something you don't know, rather than react out of ignorance or fear, be proactive and research or look more intently into what that person is talking about before you pass judgment. I've done that. Anytime I'm confronted with something, okay, before I look, let me give you an example. It's just my opinion on something you might or might not have heard. I think it was a few days ago. Those that may or may not be familiar with, and again, there's no knock on them, but a few days ago, somebody sends me a text, tells me to go on Sonetta, that and it's not a funny thing, but that Brother Polite's daughter, if those that are familiar with who Brother Polite is, you may or may not know him. He's a brother that does lectures on the conscious circuit, very popular brother. Well, apparently a few days ago, his daughter went missing, and people were in the chat saying some fucked up shit, like, "Oh, he's this and that." Yeah, I don't know. There's all these stories circulating that he's taking people for money, ripped people off. Yeah, I've heard all the stories. But I'm looking at the bigger picture here. If this girl is missing, it's about the child. It ain't about him. People were getting all caught up in looking at this as an opportunity to attack him. So I said, I'm not saying this is bullshit or not. I said, I need to get more information. So I wasn't going to get in line with the people, the polite fashion. Okay. So I said, let me see how this plays out before I draw my conclusion. These people were all reactionary. They were all up in their emotions. They were all up in their feelings. And I'm just tripping the fuck out. Like, see how easy it is to get in people's head. And if you are one of those people
that did get ripped off by the brother, I feel you. Let that shit go, because guess what? In essence, you put yourself there, and you can't go back sometimes and undo something that's been done. Unfortunately, I know it's fucked up, but it is what it is. So I wanted to wait and see how this played out. All right. So then later in the day, I think it was a few hours later, they found her, and he came on and did a video. So I said, all right, this is what I was waiting. Something told me they were going to find her, and I'll tell you why. So I said, well, let me hear the story of what happened. So now I'm not saying that it wasn't some bullshit stage. I'm not saying it was. I said, let me get the full story. So now I said, I'm going to draw my conclusion based on what he said. So here was the story for those that may not have heard. All right, the girl is 13. They were in South Beach visiting. They're not from here, but been here before. She apparently leaves the house, 13 years old, South Beach, phone not fully charged. All right, went to go get breakfast, was coming out of a breakfast spot, and some strange, I believe it was a white man, approached her or was trying to abduct her in some form or fashion. So she ran into some residential neighborhood and stayed there and was afraid to come out or talk to anybody, and then eventually came out and went back into one of the stores and to call her father. Okay. Meanwhile, whether that's true or not, I don't know. There are some loopholes. Some of it can appear to be fishy, but I don't know. I don't understand how, 13-year-old girl just, leaves and doesn't say anything. The police were never called. I'm trying to figure out where residential neighborhood near Collins Avenue and South Beach is, because I'm down here in South Florida. Maybe there's something I don't know. The story did sound, I'll be honest with you, on the surface, but I can't, because I don't know, did sound a little fishy to me. There was some loopholes in it. It just, phone not charging, police were never called. So people were saying it was a publicity stunt. Maybe it was, I don't know. But my whole point I'm trying to draw out is, it's so funny how people got sucked in. And I'm looking at it like, look, if it did happen, here, let me say two things about that. If it did happen, grateful that the girl was found unharmed. Because at the end of the day, it was about the child. It wasn't about polite. This was about a young child possibly missing. And if the brother did make the story up for a publicity stunt, yeah, that's on him. That's a sickness he'll have to deal with. I mean, I can't see somebody drawing their kids in for something like that to have attention. But again, I'm not focusing on that. It wasn't about him. I'm using that as an example. And you can go pull the video up and look at all the comments in the chat, the stupid shit that people were typing in, because they were caught up in their emotions. So I say all that to say, part of this path is having complete control and discipline over your emotions. We proactive bands, not reactionary bands. That's a hard thing for people to do. It's been hard for me because I've been a person for years that had a short temper, to have a quick fuse. So it's been something that I've had to consistently learn over a long period of time. I used to be a very reactionary person. You said the wrong thing to me, I was on you like flies on dog shit. Shit, you said the wrong thing to me, I was ready to fight, swing, throw punches. That's how I grew up. That's how reactionary I used to be. I used to react off of pure anger. Oh boy, can't do that. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't be angry. Exercise that emotion. It just means don't let it consume you. But I use that example, and it was a learning lesson, the whole process for me. I'm watching and I'm just sitting back and I'm reading this shit in the chat like, these fucked up people, man. Like, it wasn't about them. It wasn't about the situation. It was about them, because they all up in their emotions because they possibly got hustled by dude. Maybe they did. I get it. It's fucked up. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And we got to learn to discipline ourselves with that. All right? All right, what else?
Just looking for questions. This is a good comment by Ku. I think kids are always teaching and reminding us of our own power. My niece used to, and still does, and would create her own universe and all of the magical creations within it. Yeah. The beautiful thing about children is, now, most child psychologists will tell you kids are pure and innocent, especially from infant to the age of 7, right? Most child psychology books will tell you kids start developing an imagination of their own when they turn 7 years old, right? But here's something powerful about that. You ever been out at a park or a public place and say you see kids in that age group, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, whatever? I've seen Chinese kids, Black kids, Latino kids, all play together. You know why? Because they see kids. They don't see Asian. They don't see Latino. They don't see Black. That's what we call the innocence of a child, right? And then, Christians love to quote that in their book, because when Jesus said, you must become like a child again to be reborn, right? He wasn't talking about literally to become like a little kid physically. He was saying because a child is pure and innocent, it's not corrupted. You know what corrupts the children? We do as adults. Because then we start indoctrinating them with hate, racism, separation. We tell them how they should feel. We tell them what they should like, not like. We tell them what sports teams to root for as opposed to letting them select their own sports team. I'm guilty of that, right? But look at that for a minute. The power and the magic in a child's innocence. A child who's been indoctrinated with hate, religious dogma, political bullshit, racism. All they see is one like them. And it's a beautiful thing watching little kids like that all play and get along. But again, they don't see Black, they don't see white, they don't see Latino, they don't see Asian, they don't see Hindu. And I've seen, when you grow up in New York, you see this. This is common because you can't be racist in New York. I mean, yeah, you got racist ass people in New York, but you can't because you know these ethnicities. I've seen that many times before in parks. It's amazing. Why can't we do that as adults? You want to know why? Because we've sipped the Kool-Aid that we've created. The Kool-Aid that we've made, we've sipped it. So who teaches these kids this? We do. So now when they become 7 and start to develop an imagination, we corrupt that imagination. Because they say at 7 is when a kid or a child starts on some level to have an understanding of things. So here we come along as adults corrupting them. A kid is not born with hate. A kid is taught hate. It's a common sense fucking reality. So think about this. Look at a child that's raised in a group of skinheads, racist Nazis. That child at some point was born into the world innocent, regardless of your personal belief on it. When that child became to an age of understanding, then they were indoctrinated with it. It's not something they were born with. It's something they were taught. Okay? This is a fucking reality. So that is man. We can learn a lot from watching kids. A lot from watching my 6-year-old. I watch him. The beautiful thing with him is when he play, I mean, he's obsessed with cars. He collects cars. The beautiful, when my son walk outside, he knows every car. He looks at the symbol, he tell you the year, the make. For 6 years old, he knows more about cars than I know about cars. He'll be driving, if he's in the backseat driving, he'll see like a classic Corvette or something. He'll go, oh, that's a classic Corvette. That's how fanatical he is into cars. But it shows you how his imagination runs. I watch, he sets things up. You can learn from that stuff. Where do we lose that childlike innocence? Because in that childlike innocence is our magical power. Because it really started there. Because all the monsters, demons, superheroes, characters, you started creating it there. It became corrupted as you got older.
by movies, media, TV, and adults, religion, society, the education system. This now started to shape your imagination for you, opposed to you shaping it for yourself. So being on this path and being a nonconformist and tapping into the isolated consciousness is separating from all that. So fuck all these people that say you must become one with the universe. Well, you can't understand the oneness of the universe until you separate from it and look at it from another perspective. And I can hear all the new age wackos going, how can you separate from the universe? Man, drop all that new age shit. When you're God, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Okay? I can go into my subjective and separate from whatever the fuck I want to separate from, regardless if you agree with it or not. I couldn't give a shit, because if you're saying that, you're judging it based on some preconceived notion or system of indoctrination that you study or have been programmed with. This goes outside of the program. This goes outside of the indoctrination. That's what kids do when they tap in on that level. We were once kids, not. Yes, we were. We too were pure at one point. Were we not? But we also at one point got fucked up somewhere along the way. Be real with yourself and ask yourself, why am I in the situation I'm in today? Why do I think the way I think now today? And then reflect back on all the situations in your life and events that shaped your life. This is what made you what you are today. Everything you've been through up until this point is why you are who you are today, whether you classify that as good or bad. That includes the loss of loved ones, good and bad relationships, ups and downs in your finances, your family relationships or lack thereof. People are still struggling with mommy daddy issues. They didn't have a good, right? List goes on and on. All of those things have shaped and defined and made you the person. To an extent, your personality, your character, your nature today. So now reflect back on it, and what can you take that needs to be destroyed and reintegrated into your being or your essence? Because not all of it is good. Let's keep it real. So we're not concerned with the stuff that we connect with that's good. We all have great moments. I know I got to be honest, I can't really complain. You know, I listen over the years and I see a lot of the fucked up shit people been through. I've been through some shit. You know, I've lost a lot. Look, from 2011 to today, I probably lost 3 of the closest people to me. My oldest son's mother, my first, passed away in 2011, got very ill. Lost my mother before that, and I lost my father last year. Probably 3 of the closest people. And the understanding of that and death, and as I said before, when you lose a spouse, a mother, or father, it's not the same thing, let's say, and it's not to downplay it, maybe losing a friend or a cousin or an acquaintance. It's not the same thing. Because they're not connected as much to the essence of who you are. Because those people that are most close to you, you've identified with them because they are a core makeup of your being, whether you're conscious of it or not. Especially our mothers, if we have mother. I mean, I worship the floor my mother walked on. My mother was that type of person, you know, because she had that type of nature and that type of energy. Whereas my father was a whole different character. My father was family first. My father couldn't give a shit you with the knife in the back stabbing somebody. He was going to defend you. If you were family, he was going to defend you to the end. At the same time, he was a very outgoing, comical, joking guy. But when shit hit the fan, he didn't play around. And I got that from him. And I'm saying that to say because we see ourselves in them, the lack of or the lack not of. Right? If we had parents that we despise growing up, then we're motivated not to be like them. We want to be the complete opposite. Why? But they still connected with the core essence of our being in the sense that that's not what we want to be, or it is what we want to be. So that is there. It's a sub makeup of who you are. And usually when we lash out against something, because we're tapping into something within ourselves, we fear that might exist, and we just don't want to admit it. Why do sometimes we can't stand our parents? Because we might fear that which we can't stand could reside within. And it just might. And you might find that through shadow work. And that can create fear. Okay? See, this is the type of work we do on this path. This is the type of understanding we come to. We don't just sit around, Hotep, brother, Alafia, back in ancient Egypt, blah, 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 blah. Shit starts Holly Brown after about 10 minutes. That's all that shit is, right? Talk, 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 talk. If you can't apply any of this shit, what's the point? I don't care how many books in ancient Egypt telling you how great you are, stroking your ego, making you feel, putting your chest out. Oh, I am. First of all, let me say this. Not everybody's a direct descendant of the ancient Egyptians. Please stop that shit. Stop. Just because you woke up one day and felt you were going to be all Kemetic, stop. Okay? Not everybody is a direct bloodline descendant of the ancient Egyptians. Just because you choose to identify with Egypt, that does not make you an Egyptian. Please stop it. Don't do it to yourself. It's foolish. It's ignorant. And what it really shows is you have insecurities and you're running from something. Why does everybody want to be everything except for what the fuck they are? The problem with people in this country, and I'm going to call it for what it is. Yes, this country is not perfect. Yes, we might not have the greatest president right now. Why does look, if you want to be Muslim, go to a fucking Islamic country. If you want to be African, well, why don't you put on your dashiki and go back to Africa? I don't know why you won't do that, because it's all bullshit. Because you think you're going to have the liberties and freedoms to speak your mind there. Do you know the stuff we're talking about right now? If we did that in them countries, we would be beheaded. No, it's not a perfect country. Yes, racism still exists. But I'll tell you what, I'd rather be nowhere than but here. So I'm not trying to go anywhere else. I ain't trying to go back to Africa or none of that other shit. If that's your goal, then look, if America is so bad and it's so fucked up here, well, I'll tell you what. If you've never traveled the world, and I have, if you've never been, you think it's bad. If you have never been to Liberia, you want to see some fucked up shit? Go to Liberia. You think it's here, government and religion-wise, they're more Christianized and Islam, and there's an Islamic Christian war going on there, civil war that goes on there, cannibalism is practiced there. You wouldn't even be able to survive 3 weeks in Liberia, one part of Africa, okay? And you think going to Africa is just about, oh, I'm home, they're going to embrace you? Well, you go to certain parts of Africa like Ghana, Nigeria, and there's some sophisticated areas, high tech. You better be bringing something to the table. This is not, I'm going to just go find a job, because when you go to some of those countries, they look at you more as if you're taking something rather than giving something. It's not that easy, people. So don't fall for the Kool-Aid. So look, I've been hearing that shit since the late 80s going into the 90s. Whether it's that whole the motherland movement, then just go. What are you waiting for? Just go. If you've never had a better time than now, go now. Because everybody's talking about Trump, yeah, and he's a wacko. He makes for good entertainment. But look at what's going on in other parts of the world and ask yourself, where would you really rather be? Because don't sit here and talk about, this is Babylon, this is the devil's playground. Then what the fuck are you doing here? If it's that, what the fuck is you doing here? So to me, that just shows somebody that's not intelligent. Because if it is that, then look, I've offered people, I'll buy you the ticket if you want to go. Just let me know when you want to go. I'll buy you the ticket. Because I look at it like one less idiot we've gotten rid of. That's how I look at it. I'm sorry. That's just that it is what it is. But it's like Rakim said, it's not where you're from, it's where you're at. I don't think people understood that. See, you think by leaving here and going to Africa that your fucking problems aren't going to follow you? Come on, man. What you think, that's going to fix all your problems? You think if you lived in America and moved to Africa and say you are a fucked up person, you have no patience, you're a failure in life, you can't make money, you're a shitty parent, you're constantly in bad relationships with men or women, hell at everything you do. So you think that's everything here is fault, but you don't think any of that's going to follow you when you go move to another country. And I'm talking about this because I'm using an example of how people don't do real shadow work to understand themselves. So people that get caught up in their movements, they're hiding from something. There's an insecurity or a fear deep down within running from. So they get caught up in some of these sensationalist movements. I'm going to put myself in this, and we're going. Look, I can tell you this, man. I've been knowing motherfuckers since the 80s and 90s, been talking that go back to Africa shit, and guess what? They all still here. And they ain't making the least bit attempt to go anywhere anytime soon. So I don't buy it. I ain't leaving cable TV, air conditioning, fine restaurants. Fuck you. You go, you go. I'm keeping my ass right here. I'm more than content. See, that's part of doing shadow work. I've come to the understanding. See, we got to stop fooling ourselves. You're born and raised here. Just because you connect with something outside of here, that's fine. Doesn't mean you can't study that culture. It doesn't mean when you go back generations, I get that. That's what. But look, we dealing with the motherfucking now. If that shit, I don't care what it is, then go do that. Stop talking about it. All right? But anyway, all right, cool. Nalden says, Hitler is a perfect example of someone who had massive influence regardless. And yeah, he did. But see, when you look at people like Hitler, Mussolini, and a lot of these fanatical people that some would say, they were charismatic speakers. They carried, see, Dr. Bynum, when we had him on the show, and in his book, Dark Light Consciousness, he talks about the power from a psychological level. And he even mentions Hitler in that book. There are people that are charismatic speakers. The way they speak and the way they convey a message, they can get into the very psyche of certain individuals and arouse their emotions. Now, that could be a good or a bad thing. Look, you have Farrakhan. Farrakhan's a great speaker. And on a good and a bad level, he can arouse people's emotions. He's a very good speaker, whether you like him or not. He has style and charisma to him. And I respect a lot of the things he says. I think he has a good understanding of certain things, but there's a lot of things that I think he says that's completely fucking bizarre. But I don't focus on that. I focus on a lot of the things that I can resonate with. Same thing with Dr. York. Dr. York was able to build a whole fucking nation, even though he was a fucking charlatan and a plagiarizer and a thief and a pedophile. But he had that gift of gab. He had that charisma. That could be a two-edged sword, right? We could go through David Koresh. We could go through a list of these people. I mean, Jim Jones. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. These people possessed a certain gift, but again, it could affect people on a multitude. All right? So yeah, another good point. Yeah, and that's true. Like Patrick says, and again, I want to make that clear. I don't child molestation, because if anybody touched my kid, that's my stance on it. I'm taking my stance on it being firm. If you have kids, yes, I get it. I wouldn't condone it at all, and I'd handle it. Okay. But at the same token, I got to understand it's a reality. It does exist. And in my opinion, those people can never be healed. They can only be controlled. It's something that starts on the mental. Where it comes from, we could be here philosophizing about it for all day. I do believe it's something that's inherited. I do believe to an extent it is genetic, and sometimes it's passed down because they obviously have been abused themselves. But I don't want to get into that now. That'll change the whole thing of what we're talking about. But hold on. All right, I found my spot. All right, I'm going to finish with these questions in the chat and wrap it up. All right. Didi said, let me be a Doug. Yeah, I said, I trip out when I'm in the mall down here. Look, I told my oldest boy now, well, he's not a boy, he's a grown ass man, he's 27. I remember years ago when he was about 12 or 13. All right.
I know from growing up, he walked in the house one day and he had his pants sagging. You know, I'm done with that because I did that stuff back in the day. I've changed the approach on that. Okay. I see a lot of mall thugs down here, right? What I mean by mall, they're suburban mall thugs. Mom drops them off at the mall and they get in the mall, they start sagging their pants and they start trying to talk all hip hop. It's fucking comical. But I taught him, it was my son and his friend years back. They wanted to be, you know, hip and cool. I said, okay, you wanna see where some thugs and gangsters hang out? Put them in the car. Took them to an area in Queens where we grew up, and I told them to observe. I said, these are killers. These are people that do this shit for a living. These ain't people. See, this is what I'm saying. When you thugs and gangsters, these are people that do this shit 24/7. Okay? You want to hang out with this crowd? These are real thugs and gangsters. Just because you sag your pants and say yo yo doesn't make you a fucking thug. Okay? It doesn't make you a thug. So I had to teach my son that lesson when he was about 12 or 13. And I took him to an area and I told him, I said, just watch and observe. And you could see crack deals going on, prostitution, just shady shit. I said, this is the life of thugs 24/7. Not somebody because he, you know, saw the latest rap video on BET and he's emulating his fit. And I told him, I had to sit down with him years ago and say, most of these dudes, not all of them, most of these dudes in this video, this is A&R's created this shit. Most of them ain't even what they plan themselves up to be. So that's what I said earlier. We spend our whole lives creating this illusion of how we want people to see us. And I taught him at an early age, be you. Don't go that route. Don't let society dictate to you how you're supposed to behave, how you should dress, how you should talk, walk, act, and think. You make those decisions for yourself. Don't let nobody do it. But yeah. All right. Oh, shit. Man, thing jumped on me again. All right. I'm just going to pick up from here. It jumped on me, so I might miss something, but I'm just going to start where I left off here. Okay. Good to see you here, Al. Al Kema as a goddess. Better late than never, as they say, right? All right. So this is see Angel's question. Aren't symbols able to awaken the deep self? Most definitely. Let me give you an example. Right? Look at symbols of famous restaurants, right? Think about how you could be driving down the road. I don't care if it's Wendy's, Burger King, or McDonald's. You see the golden arches, or you see the Burger King symbol, you see the Wendy's symbol, right? Automatically, your mind starts to visualize. I'm just saying, whether you eat that stuff now, even reflect maybe when we all did at some point. I mean, I don't eat that shit anymore. But maybe I'm saying back when you did, we all did at some point. Think how it stirred, and then all of a sudden you started to crave it. So it does unlock, not only does it unlock certain things deep within, it also can send suggestions to the subconscious, right? Think about how you've been watching, or you might have been watching TV one night, late at night, and a commercial maybe came on for some ice cream, right? It could be, I mean, we grew up in New York, Carvel was the big thing. You know, now Stone Cold, which I like to go there once in a while. They have Stone Cold here in South Florida. Bomb ass ice cream. They have them actually in New York. If I go back to my neighborhood now, they have them in New York too. They started popping up a few years back. But think how you see the logo of Stone Cold or Carvel. The mind automatically registers ice cream. And then you start creating visions of certain products that they make because you've been in there before or you've seen the commercials. And then it starts to play on the senses to the point
sometimes you act out on that craving. White Castle, right? The first thing every time I go to New York, and I go times a year, I've been here since 13, but I go back 2-3 times a year. First thing I do when I get there, and it's the only time I eat it because they don't have them here in South Florida, I go right to White Castle. As soon as I see the logo, my mind starts to equate everything that's connected with White Castle. Now, why can't you do that with motherfucking statues on your altar? That's my whole point. If we can do it with motherfucking food, why can't you automatically look at Sekhmet and it activates the warrior energy? Why can't you look at Tahuti and it automatically access the hidden knowledge aspect within yourself, the wisdom? I can go on. And I'm glad you brought it because it's a good segue into the manifestations and the masks and how to work with them. We do it and we're not conscious of it. We do it all the time. Okay, and we're not conscious of it. Right? Let me show you how the senses work. We've all walked past a bakery, right? And we know good bakeries, especially, I mean, down here is a little different, but especially in New York, a bagel or a good bakery, an Italian bakery, and you walk by it and you smell the pastries, right? All of a sudden, it's unlocking. It's unlocked. This food can be a motherfucker, man. Food is a tool that can build up or destroy, right? So smell, sense is another tool that we have to learn to tap into on a magical level. That's the power. That's why incense in my ritualistic work is important to me, because every incense carries the smell of it, activates a sense that carries a certain tone, a vibe, or frequency. And that's why I've already have mapped out when I'm doing a certain ritualistic work, I already know, according to my spirit, what type of incense I'm going to use for whatever particular ritual. I already know right out the gate. I don't even got to sit there and make a decision on it. I know type of ritual, that's the type of vibe that this particular scent will set. All right? Connect like that, because if we do it with Angel brought up, symbols able to awaken the deep self, that's what the essence that this is about, because all it is symbolic. And we unlock the hidden aspects of this when we tap into it. All right. What else we got? Anya says, what are your thoughts on mimetic magic? I've done a little mimetic sorcery, memes and all that. I mean, yeah, there is power in memes, but I do think some go a little extreme with it. But yes, memes project consciousness. Memes have a lot of hidden consciousness in it. Now, I don't work with it. I wouldn't say I work with it on a wide scale level as a practice. Like I said, I have dabbled in like mimetic sorcery. There are some good books out there on mimetic sorcery and memes. And we see memes as big on social media because a meme can speak 1,000 words, right? You see a meme posted on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and just by a meme, it could just be a picture with maybe 2 or 3 catchwords or a phrase, but locked inside of that or hidden within that, it's speaking a multitude of levels. So yeah, there is power in memes, and it can be worked as a math system, just like any that we're discussing, as far as along the lines of symbolicism, projecting consciousness, and project consciousness on a wide scale level through. That's why a person posts a meme, right? Because they're trying to get a message out, right? On a wide scale level, but within the message, there's a message. So yeah, I mean, worked with it a little bit, but I'll be honest, it's not something I utilize a lot. So Kiona says she's A+ and always gravitates to veggies. Yeah, it's a And I was saying that earlier, not just to be funny and crack on people that were vegans. It's a known fact. People that have A and B type blood are more conducive to a vegan diet because A and B blood tend to be a little more passive. Those that have O negative and O positive blood, they're more aggressive and their bodies tend to need higher levels of protein. I mentioned this story, I think, once or twice before in the past. I had a brother that I was friends with, and the Sadie died, right? And it's not to knock Dr. Sadie because he's no longer with us. But the Dr. Sadie diet is for those that reside in a tropical environment. We have to keep that in mind. It's a diet that's high on seeds, nuts, plants, fruits, which that's great. But this individual, my friend, he was O positive like myself. Didn't get a checkup, which I suggested to him. Didn't get his red and white blood count, which I suggested to him. Should have had a full vitamin and mineral checkup, which I suggested to him. None of this was done. Well, long story short, fast forward 2-3 months into the diet, he started to get jaundice, started to get like yellow skin, his nails. Then they started to get a little gangrene, and all this funky shit started activating within him. And it turns out it was the diet because he needed a lot more. O positive people tend to need higher intakes of protein. He wasn't getting the right level of protein. He also found out because of the diet he went on, it fucked count and a bunch of other shit. Gotta be careful when you go into. I'm talking about going to those extreme diets. I'm not talking about the common sense vegetarian that just tries to eat healthy. There are those that go on those strict, like Dr. Sadie like diets. You have to be careful when you do that. I don't suggest anybody do that until they get a full blood checkup, vitamin mineral checkup. Find out all that stuff before you go extreme, if that's something you do down the road. So I'm just saying, you got to be careful with that. And anyway, he wound up coming off of it and then just went on a basic sensible diet. And as soon as he started, taking a moderate intake of meat again, all that shit went away, the jaundice and all that bullshit. So, yeah. What else we got? Yeah, I see you guys commenting on the polite situation I was talking about. I mean, look, it did sound a little fishy to me, but if somebody was going to use their child for a publicity stunt just to get hits on their YouTube channel, that's fucking sad. That's all I can say. That's just sad if that's the case. But yeah, Anya, and that's what people were saying in the chat. And again, as I was saying, that could have been a possibility. But what I was drawing upon when I was saying that, I was just amazed how not even 5 minutes into the live feed, no information was gathered, no intelligence was gathered, and people would just be pure reaction. Yeah, I mean, and they could have been right. I'm not saying they weren't, but my thing is, I'm trying to use the example of what we don't do on this. How we are always in control and where we're proactive. Look, the only time you should react off of raw emotion is when you're in a life-threatening situation and you have to defend yourself. That's when you just raw reaction, raw emotion. When you are in danger, your life is threatened, or you're facing a crucial situation, that's when you react. Okay? But outside of times like that, you're always supposed to be in control. Because if you're not and you're a pure reactionary being, you're at the disposal of others. Oh, God, excuse me. All right. What else we got?
point, Sauron, in this way. If your child was missing, would you notify the local authorities or would you go on Instagram? I agree. And that's one of the things that stood out to me. Look, yeah, I know there's trust issues with the police today, this or that, but come on. Look, I grew up watching good police and bad police. Shit. I have friends that I went to high school to this day that have turned out to be good cops. Look, you got corruption and everything. Look, yes. Is there corruption in the police department? Yes, there is. All over the place. Are there any good cops? Yes, there are. But in a situation like that, I agree. That was one thing was a red flag. Why are we on the internet? We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram. People were thinking, look, this sounds fishy. You know what I mean? Contact the local. I could see if you was on Instagram, call the local authorities and film it. You know, now you're using that as a tool to get the word out for assistance, but show that you called the police. Maybe that gives you some validity to the story. But look, let's keep it real. We all sit here and say, if your house got broken into, or you knew you were in the house and somebody was intruding, don't act like your ass wouldn't call the police. Okay? So who knows? But all I can say on that note is hopefully that wasn't the case. Because to use your child like that, if that was the case, and expose them, that's some foul shit. Foul. All right. Damn. Look. All right, so here's a good comment by Blair. When you are working on when you are working on being in control of your emotions, you are able to recognize the patterns that got you in situations. You are better able to leave things that no longer serve you behind. True indeed. All right, what else we got? Yeah, and Patrick says maintaining in control of feelings and thinking before responding is the road to self-mastery, but it's hard. Yes, it is hard. And it's not going to come overnight. And it takes discipline because we've taught our whole lives to be reactionary. I mean, that's just our nature. It's something that was instilled in. Now, again, it's in our nature because it's a defense mechanism. And like I said, when you're in danger, you should react. Complete danger, I'm talking about. That's your only choice. And that happens. There are situations where that happens. But most of the time, that's not the case. The discipline becomes tough. All right, so Killer B, the Witchfinder General. Is Lucifer really Osiris or Set? I believe you did a vid a while back on Lucifer, and if I remember right, you said it was about Set. Excuse me. No. Yes, Set. When we're looking symbolically in that pantheon, yes, Lucifer would be a representation. In some circles, which I don't agree with, they say Set would be symbolic of the biblical devil. I just think that's personal interpretation. But yet, Set was ostracized because if you go back, obviously, you do your research. Remember, prior to the 21st dynasty, Set was one of the most upheld gods in ancient Egypt. He was the one, not the position you see of Osiris guiding the soul to the underworld. It was Set that was the one who was in place of that functioning symbolically. And that's when the Osirian cult took over. That's when everything started to change, because when the Osirian cult took over in ancient Egypt after the 22nd dynasty, that's where Set was now was shown as some demonic type of character. The narratives were changed because remember those that were part of the Set cult, they didn't want to conform to this kind of form of monotheism that the Osirian cult was trying to perpetrate in ancient Egypt at that time. So they were basically like, well, cool, we're going to do our thing, you do your thing. But that didn't sit well. Then you see the stories pop up of Set,
slaying Osiris, Set fighting Horus. And really what that symbolically represents is the higher self mastering the lower self, right? That war, the warring two brothers traced in many cultures, Cain and Abel, Enki and Enlil, the list goes on and on. It was trying to tell you, to show you symbolically the war that you fight within yourself on a daily basis, the struggle you go through. But the adversary of Set represents the higher self, contrary to what most Kemetic people, everything is in Horus. That's really your lower self. That's your conformist self. A Set is the higher self because it didn't conform with any of that. And all you got to do is read the Apophis story and really understand it. So they say Set, he's synonymous with Apophis. Apophis is chaos. And he's the god of chaos storms. Yes, because he's the god of chaos and storms, because is he the god of that? He's given that title because he's able to master and control the chaos. See, they don't talk about that part. Because when you read the story of Ra's journey through the underworld on the boat of Ra or Re, whatever you want to call it, right, where Ra spends his nights trying to keep Apep at bay. And then you see where Set comes in and has to show his father, like, look, Pop, you're doing this shit wrong. Let me show you how you do this. Because Set knew that chaos would always manifest. It was about destroying it, keeping it under control. You can't kill it, because even when there's peace, war will find its way. But the difference is when you are prepared for the war, it's easier to overcome. But when you're not prepared for the war, thinking it's never going to come because you destroyed it once, that's when you fool yourself. So they tell you all those negative things about Set, but they don't tell you Set was the only one that was able to control and keep it at bay. And we liken that on this path to, that's our objective. We want to be Set-like in the sense that we make order out of our personal chaos, our problems, our struggles, our difficulties. And Apep or chaos comes and visits you on a nightly basis. And I've talked about this many times before. When does Apep come visit you mentally? Well, anytime you lay up at night, we all sometimes nights where we can't get to sleep because we got shit on our mind. Apep comes from the hours of midnight to dawn. Comes in the form of, I got to pay these bills tomorrow. I got to take care of this certain task at the job tomorrow. I don't like my job. I can't stand. I don't like my spouse. Should I break up? My kids, I got issues. I got problems. This kid got problems. All the chaos starts to come to you in the late hours of the night. The story was trying to show you that. Why do you think Ra stayed up from midnight to dawn trying to keep the chaos at bay? That's symbolic of him trying to deal with his struggles and his problems. And he couldn't do it. He got consumed by it because he couldn't figure out every time when he killed Apep how he was able to resurrect. Well, that's why Apep comes in the form of a snake. When a snake sheds its skin, it what? It regrows new skin, which is symbolic that chaos will manifest again. Set knew that. Set wasn't trying to destroy it. He was trying to keep it at bay. And then when you read the stories, when he goes through the duats or the gates, remember, the first time when he approaches Pep, he needs help getting through. Right, he can't get through by himself. And then when he, at the seventh gate, when he encounters Osiris and Set, right, that image that you see in ancient Egypt of the one body and the head of Set and the head of Osiris, that represents the harmony that the Black Adept needs within them in order for them to successfully move through this path. Now, why is it at the seventh gate, Ra encounters Set and Heru, and then he's able to pass through Apep after that? Do you think that's a fucking coincidence? No, it's not. It's trying to show you that's representative of you. I did a whole video on that. Go watch that video for those that didn't see it. And that's really describing your journey on this path on a daily basis. So remember, he didn't have the tools and the ability to pass through by a pep on it. Said the guardians of the gate had to guide him through third duat. And then as he starts to get knowledge of self, why is it after he encounters Set and Heru, which represents harmony within the Black Adept? You need both the Heru and the Set energy within harmony. So you do need some of that lighter energy, but you don't need it all the time. Where all these paths teach you it's peace, light, and love, and unity. That's all bullshit. Look, nobody can be goddamn happy and cheerful all the fucking goddamn time. That's just not a reality. But the point being is, once he was able to have that harmony symbolic of Set Heru, he was able to pass by a pet and not be harmed, because now he had learned, oh, this is how you master chaos. Wasn't that bullshit I was trying to do all that time? This is the great Ra, right? This is how some people have made Ra into some monotheistic deity. I told you, I know motherfuckers that call him the Most High Ra. What the fuck is that? But you get the point, hopefully. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, Jeff, good point. Jeff says he learned racism from the Catholic school system. Yeah, you will. And I could say that from experience, because I went to Catholic school from 1st to 8th grade. I got kicked out in 8th grade. I don't even want to tell you what I did. But yeah, I could see that. Yeah, we get it from somewhere, the point, and you're narrowing it down to something. It's not something we're born with that's naturally there. It's something that's taught to us. It's something that we're exposed to. And as I said, it's corrupt the minds of children when they start to develop an imagination. And most child psychologists will tell you 7 years old is when a child comes to some level of understanding. That's when they could start to understand what something is. That's what they can start. And I don't even want to say understand right or wrong, because right or wrong is also programmed in the children. So I don't want to use the term they start to understand right from wrong. That's not what I mean when I say that. They start to have their own perspective on things when they turn 7. So it's a critical thing, yeah. Yeah, and that's good, Killer B, that you left the Hebrew Israelites. Look, man, I know cats I went to school with. I go back to New York. I mean, we still conversate. We agree to disagree with these cats. I mean, it's sad. See these grown ass men dressed like the Isley brothers and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, standing on a corner with a damn fucking bullhorn, yelling at people. And you know, my one friend I grew up in high school with, he's a fucking character, man. I ain't gonna say his name, because of the fact we're friends. But we argue because he says this is Babylon and you know, Yahweh Shai, Babylon, and tear it down. Well, you could pull up videos on YouTube where all the Hebrew Israelites in New York were saying the world was going to end in 2000. There's videos on YouTube you can pull up right now. Well, guess what, people? We're in the year 2019. And according to their Bible in Deuteronomy, and I believe it's chapter 18, false prophet prophesizes they should be stoned to death. So how come nobody in them camps stoned them to death? Because they all made false prophecy. All you got to do is pull it up, Google it. The Israelites predicting the end of the world in the year 2000, right? A lot of camps in New York City, if you're familiar with the Hebrew Israelites, were saying this. Most of these cats, they get caught up in that fanaticism again. It's because there's some disconnect in their life. It's a crutch for them to lean on. Now they have an excuse why they're so angry and mad and why they're struggling in their life. It's because of the white. It's because of America. It's because of Babylon. And look, yeah, we know the history of this country, but what country doesn't have a fucked up, shady past? If that stuff existed, I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but guess what? We're living in a different day and time now. We're living in a day and time where we have access to knowledge that we didn't have access to not even that long ago, 20, 30 years ago, 35, 40 years ago. Everybody has the know-how now. Look, you got to learn to play the game and put on the gardener clothes and do what you got to do. But I'd be damned if I dressed like a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger or Isley brother or looking like these cats are out there, man. They wild as fuck, man. I don't know what to say about that, man. I got friends that ain't that to this day, grown-ass men in their late 40s standing on the corner yelling at people. And I be tripping the fuck out with them when I go back there and see them like, yo, when you gonna grow the fuck up? Oh, man, see, you just... I mean, cool dude, man, but lost. Poor dude is lost, man. And he's probably gonna see this video. He watches my channel and always sends me crazy-ass emails. No, that was... He's gonna know that I was just talking about him. He's gonna laugh about it, but I'm gonna get an email. He's gonna give me a call or text me. But I ain't gonna say his name. I ain't gonna put him out there like that on Front Street. All right, what else we got? Wow, okay, higher vibrations. Yeah, you lost close, but yeah. It's you got to remember the people you identify that are very close to you is because again, they make up a core essence of your being. You see something in them either that you want to become or you admire or you have become and you have connected in similar fashion. And I saw all those characteristics in those three aforementioned people. And I didn't even mention in, my best friend I grew up with. And I remember talking to you. I lost my two best friends I grew up with. I lost one last year. We grew up from elementary school to high school. And then my high school best friend, when we graduated high school, I left my house at 17 and I never went back. We got an apartment together literally 3 weeks after we graduated high school. He committed suicide in 2015. 15, end of 15, going into 16. And I didn't even include my two baby. You guys all knew about my last July. And now it's been over a year. He passed away and he died in his sleep. He was a fireman. And it's crazy because he went to sleep, and I think I about the story. He thought he was having just gas. He thought he was having acid reflux. He just thought he felt, from what his wife told me, he just thought it was gas. He winds up going to sleep and wakes up about 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And he started feeling real sick, and they take him to the hospital, and he wound up having a heart attack and had no history. And I don't want to kind of put out there the glum energy, but what does that say? What it says is don't take shit for granted. Stop being so pissed off and mad about shit. People are so fucking angry and bitter and just fucked up. Take some time to enjoy your life. Be happy. Do things you want to do. See, I gave all that shit up years ago. I enjoy my life. I like spending time with my kid. I love the simple things in life. Just simply going out and getting a meal. It don't even gotta be extravagant. Just sitting on a beach, smelling the water, watching the sunrise, a nice cool day. Be grateful of the shit you have, not complaining about the shit you don't have. And I don't want to get into no preachy mode, but this is why people are fucking miserable. See, I'm grateful for the things I have. I don't focus on the things I don't have. And when you do that, things that you really want start to come your way. See, you could be complaining about a shitty car you're driving, but then did you ever look at the fact that you may not have a car at all? See, it puts a different perspective. And I've always said this, and not to be funny. We take shit for granted, like wiping our ass after we take a shit. I've said this before. What if you couldn't wipe your ass anymore? So you don't think about that because you take it for granted because you could do it every day. Think about that. The next time you're complaining about, I don't have the money. My clothes are jacked up. See, that shit's not really important because, yeah, you might have ramen noodles in your cabinet. You might not eat. There's somebody, as we're talking right now, sleeping on the streets that don't know where their next meal is coming from. See, we don't think like that. I think like that, okay, all the time. So great for what I have. And I don't take any of it for granted because I see things that go on around me that show me as quick as it's given is as quick as it can be taken away. And then you only realize it when it's gone. So we got to start thinking like that. And this path, that it addresses those fears. What if it's all taken away? What if everything you have is gone tomorrow? What if? And it can happen. It happens all the time. It is a reality. And I'm not saying that, again, I don't want to put out there the gloom and doom. But this is reality. There is no spook God that can prevent that from happening and prevent it and give it back to you. It's a reality. It exists. So I tell people, stop focusing on what you don't have. Stop spending all your time complaining, bitching, and moaning, and being miserable, and enjoy life. See, I don't take for granted those things of being able to get up and exercise and go to the gym 4 days a week. I look at that as an escape. I enjoy doing that, right? It's like, don't take shit like that for granted. I enjoy coming home, spending time with my son. I enjoy sitting down with a sporting event, right? Because I'm submerged in the moment and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to do that because those are things that make me happy. I'm not going to waste my time with some fucking troll or some ignorant fucking person who usually people like that are miserable and they want to suck you into their misery. I don't roll like that. Leave that shit alone. We're too old for that shit. I know I am. I'd be damned if I let somebody suck me into that drama. I just don't get down like that. None of us should. But one thing this path does teach you about, the greatest things it's taught me, grateful. It's the best way I can put it. I see religious people talk that shit all the time, but I've watched literally people leave a church service and stand outside in front of the church, start talking about other people that are in the church. What kind of fuckery is that? That goes against every principle that your book teaches. You know how many times I've 20 years? That's not us, people. We don't do shit like that. But one thing that's put this path has made me see the reality of things, to see things for what they truly are. And two, it's taught me to be happy, live life to the fullest, and be grateful. I'm grateful for the cars I have. I'm grateful for the house that I have. I'm grateful for the family that I have. And my family's not perfect. Whose family is? But that's life, people. See, this path, again, to focus on what you do have and how you can make it better. We don't sit around sulking about, oh, I don't have this and I wish this. Wishing is for people that are failures. I don't wish for anything. Okay? All right, what else we got here? All right, I might have to skip some of these. Yeah, the Charlie Brown thing. I'm sorry, I do that because of those who are familiar with Charlie Brown, we've all watched the Charlie Brown cartoon. And look, I gotta keep it 100 with you too. This is my favorite time of the year. I don't care what all these conscious people say about the holidays. That's the white man shouldn't have. Fuck that. My Christmas tree is going up. Christmas lights is going up soon. I love the Christmas energy. I don't give a fuck. I don't look. You don't have to agree with that. I ain't into the religious aspect of it. I just love the whole Christmas energy. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I love Thanksgiving. I love Halloween. My favorite time of the year is October to December. You want to know why I had to come to the realization of it? Yeah, I got into the whole conscious thing. Used to speak out on that years ago. Oh, we shouldn't celebrate that pagan shit. But you know what it does? It takes me back to the magical time of my childhood. And secretly, a lot of us love Christmas. I don't give a fuck. I love Christmas. And I'll be on record say whatever you want. I don't care. Ostracize me, criticize me, hate on me, talk shit. I'm still celebrating me some motherfucking Christmas. It's a great, despite all the negative shit. Yeah, is there negative shit that goes on with some ignorant, but you got ignorant people in everything you do. But shit, I go Christmas out here, man. Lights, the whole nine, stockings, fireplace, we put everything, man. That's how we do it, man. It's magic. I love it. My wife goes crazy. I play Christmas, this motherfucker, man. But you know why? The reason why I was saying is, I like because, again, people that are close to you, you connect with the core essence of their being. My mother was huge on Christmas. And I came to the realization that's one of the main reasons why it kind of connects me, even my father, it kind of connects me to that of what connected to. Brings me because growing up, that was big in our house. The holidays was a big thing. It's not like it is now. Now, I mean, it was family. We we grew up in family. We have big family get-togethers. That's what I like about the should be all year round. Shouldn't just be the holidays, but it's a special time of year. I don't care what anybody says, and I make no qualms about being clear on that. I ain't one of them, conscious people. They don't celebrate Christmas, and on the down low, they sneaking off at the mall buying gifts for people. But yeah, it is what it is, man. But the Charlie Brown thing, if you remember the Charlie Brown, when Charlie Brown is like zoning out, and they had that one character, I think it was a school teacher, she would talk, and he would get annoyed, and it just that's what a lot of these conscious clowns sound like to me when they talk. The black man is there. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, racism is worldwide, and it does exist. Shit, I was just looking. There was a soccer player playing for Italy. This was an African brother who was born and raised in Italy, and his name was Mario Bertoli. And I mean, I think he was parents was from Nigeria, but he's a citizen, born and raised in Italy. And he almost walked off the field because I forgot what country this was in, some Eastern European country. And every time he would touch the ball, they would make, believe this shit in 2019. Shit I'm talking about. We talk about racism in this country. People don't know racism overseas and in other countries outside of the United States. That shit is on a whole nother level if you haven't seen it or experienced it. But this is something that just happened a few days ago. Every time this brother would touch the ball, the crowd would make monkey sounds to insinuate he was a monkey. You believe this shit? In 2019. So talk to me about shit like that. If you think that it's just here, shit. You think you're gonna leave here and go somewhere like Africa or another country and think racism doesn't exist and problems don't exist? You're fucking stupid. You're more dumb than I thought. What else we got? And that's cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've studied African cultures, religions. Like I said, I'm initiated in Ifa. I went through all that shit. We're always fascinated with Egypt now, but I study ancient Egypt now from the perspective of Egyptian Heka, Egyptian black magic, which that's really the power of ancient Egypt that nobody really talks about. I talk about it all the time. So I do work the path of ancient Egypt, but through the path of black magic, Egyptian Heka. I don't deal with all that fluffy shit. And that's probably, as I've been clear about that many times, that's probably one, paths that I gravitate towards, one of the many. Egyptian Heka is very Luciferian in nature, because it teaches about the power of God or deity resides within. And it's about activating that power. That's what this shit is about. All right. What else we got? And that's true. Some Africans will eat your ass. Cannibal. See, that's the thing I don't understand about. A lot of these people are vegans, or they talk about as if cannibalism started with Europe. No, cannibalism started with ancient primitive African tribes. The problem is everybody thinks ancient Egypt is all Africa. As if Egypt, the only thing in Africa is Egypt civilization. Well, there were civilizations that predated Egypt. Egypt was the first great established civilization. Talk to me about some of those tribes. So what were those people that practiced cannibalism? Right? I mean, let's talk about it. Let's not act like that shit didn't exist in Africa and still does to this day. There's still primitive tribes still practice that. And that predates, that shit goes back, I don't know how, thousands of years. Talk to me about that. Yes, Hitler was known to practice the occult. Yes. There's varying theories on that, of what type of occult he practiced. You could pull up books There's actually a whole German Nazi sect in Germany, and I forgot what it's called. I'm drawing a blank. That considered themselves, I don't want to use the word devil or Satan worshipers, but practicing black magicians in some form. There's a name for it. I'm just drawing a blank. It's an order that they say still exists to this day. I'm just drawing a blank. I can't. Damn. It'll come to me. But yes, it has been said and written and documented that he was in the occult. You'd be begging to come back. Listen, look at Mos Def, right? Mos Def found out Africa wasn't cracked up to what it was to be, to the point where they won't even let him back in the country no more. Right? He got caught up in the hype, and I love Mos Def. I think he's one of the few real hip hop artists out there. But he got caught up in that whole go back to Africa vibe. He went over there, wasn't what he thought he was, and he tried to get back over here, and they wouldn't let him. And he's still trying to find a means to get back over here. He's got all types of legal issues. His visa, he's having a hard time getting back over here. You know what I mean? Yeah, thanks, just in time. Yeah, you can find some reference to it in Thelema, OTO. There's a book that was specifically written. I can't think of the name. But it'll come to me. Oh, no, there's great places. And see, that's the other misconception. Let's dispel that myth real quick before we wrap it up. Some places more lavish, beautiful, and highly technological in Africa than the United States. Okay? I mean, advanced technology, they got technology beyond what we're using here. Okay? So let's dispel that myth. There's not, everywhere in Africa isn't just grass fields and trees and no. See, that's another myth. There's some like Nigeria. You go to certain parts of Nigeria, Zimbabwe. You go to a lot of these places. There's big industrial high-tech cities. It's very advanced. See, they don't tell you a lot of that shit. And what I'm trying to say is, though, you go there bringing something to the table. It's not like America. America promotes that land of opportunity. You can do whatever you do. It doesn't work like that. Places like that. It's like, okay, you hear what you bringing to the table, what you add into the economy. What do you do? No, you ain't coming here to take from the economy. You coming here to add to the economy. Is the difference. See, here, America's a land of opportunity. You come in, get in where you fit in. It's not how it is. It's not how it is over there. Trust me. If you don't travel, you would never know that. All right. All right. Anyway, other than that, I've extended my stay a little too long. Real quick, just a reminder, will not be on Thursday. The next 2 Thursdays, I will keep it real. I'll be going to see my boys play next 2 Thursday nights. Got tickets, so I'm going to go chill at the game. And a reminder, I know people have emailed me, we're going to take a break. No ritual this month. Got holidays coming up, a lot of shit going on. Plus, I got some personal stuff I would like to attend to and work on. Some ritualistic stuff I need to do for myself. I got my little guy. He's playing hockey, so that takes up some of my time. So I'm going to take me a little break. So nothing for this month. And again, no YouTube video Thursday. I will try to get back on my Fridays where I was uploading a video. So I'm going to try to record something in between those Thursdays. I don't film. I definitely will. And I'll just upload a recorded video to keep some stuff coming at you guys. All right. And again, if you need to contact me for a spiritual reading, and again, let me throw this last thing out here. I was using a lot of other systems, but I'm focused on now just working with Lucifer, the Lords of Darknesses, the 12 Princes of Hell. Those are the spirits I work with when I do spiritual readings. I was doing the Egyptian rune stuff, but we got to gravitate away from all that stuff, man, because that stuff still, it keeps us trapped in a. I'm talking about the Orishi stuff and all that, but I'll get into that another time. But anyway, if you need to contact me and you're interested in a spiritual reading or a consultation, send me an email. and just put in the email the days and times you're available and the time zone you live in. That's important so we could set up a day and time that works for you and works for me. All right, you see the email, it's in the description box. Hopefully you got something out of this video. All I can say is be consistent at what you do. Be consistent at what you do. Be happy, enjoy your life, and be grateful for what you do have. That's the best thing I can tell you, all right? Peace, and we'll see everybody next Tuesday, all right?